Good morning, good morning, good morning. I think as I kick off this live this morning, I want to take a minute to give credit and thanks to my gorgeous husband Laurie, who gets ousted from the house every day for the last 10 days as I, get this going. And it's amazing how the microphone picks up all sorts of noises in the background. And so he's an absolute gem. He's gets himself out of the house so that we can do this and there's no disturbance in the background. So I just want to acknowledge him for a minute, even though he doesn't watch this. I don't think he watches this. Good morning, Margaret. As you come on, please say good morning. It is lovely to see who is here. So yesterday's training with Marion Stewart, I thought was just so powerful. I took so much from that interview, and I hope you did too. Good morning, Debbie. It's lovely to see you. I hope you did too. As we think about the different stages that we've gone through in this 10 days. Good morning, Janet. It's lovely to see you. Just keep in that mode of reflection. Like, what did I learn? What did I hear? What was that aha moment, that thing that you heard? And, as we dive in today's training, I was really trying to think about what is the theme of today so that I can encapsulate it. And I think it's going to be mystery, because what I know with absolute certainty is that a confused mind does nothing. And we have so much. Yes, they are looking beautiful. Good morning, Trudy. It is lovely to see you, honey. The lilies are looking beautiful, Janet. They're so close to all being out. They just bring me so much joy. And I've got all this orange theme going on. It's been a theme for the last couple of years. I don't know. I think I looked up what orange means. I think these colors, when we're particularly drawn to a color, there's meaning behind it. And I know that I've always been drawn to sunset and sunrise colored, those oranges and reds, but I've lost track for the minute of what that meaning is. But anyway, that's just by the by. So I think the theme for today is mystery, and that idea that knowing that a confused mind does nothing. And I think now in this space, good morning, Fiona, now in this space where we have this online world and we have more and more and more access to more and more and more information, the ability to get out of confusion and feel clear becomes harder and harder. So what I want to do today is give you a visual. I'm a vision building mentor. This is how I like to support the women in my community to get a clear picture of what it is that we're doing. Good morning, Judy. Good morning, Tracy. Oh, look at all these beautiful people coming in. Thank you so much for being here. So that is my intention today. And of course, we've got the incredible Monica Hershaft with us in about half an hour. And she is the queen of really nailing down, these mystery illnesses, symptoms, different things that we have coming up. You might go to a doctor and they're like, everything's coming back normal. It's all in your head. We love that all in your head conversation. And she's the queen at addressing that. So I think mystery, taking the mystery out of things, is today's conversation. So we're right on 9:30. And so I want to give you this visual. Now, I popped it down on paper. This is how I think about, creating, I keep talking about creating the life you want. And yes, we're working on becoming more extraordinary every day, stronger, healthier, and happier, not just subscribing to this inevitable decline that we've been programmed to think is coming from midlife onwards. So let me give you a visual. I put this down on paper because I know this is how my brain works. I'm just wondering if you can see. You don't need to be able to read it. I just want you to get pen and paper. Can you see that? Is that, no, it's not. Frustration. Anyway, in the center, I just want you to have, if you've got pen and paper, we've got a center, and then we've got 6 bubbles around it. And so if you can get pen and paper out, I'm going to talk you through how I think about getting us to, it's that creating a life you love. So it is, whether you call it your North Star, whether you call it Utopia, whether you call it heaven on earth, it is this life that we are looking to create, this place that we want to be in our lives, which exists mostly in our minds, but it is that heaven on earth. Think about, how do you describe that? Just pick one. Is it Utopia, heaven on earth, your North Star? Pop that is in the center. You can write all 3 if you want to, or just pick one, whatever that is for you. Now, there are 6 bubbles, 6 things that support us to creating this life we want. Now, the first bubble is that 100% personal responsibility. That is, without question, goes at the top. Okay, so I don't necessarily number them, because it is not that one is more important than the other. They all work together. But we get to understand that if we want to be living in this place that is our utopia, at our North Star, it is 100% on us to make that happen. Nothing out there is responsible, just you. So that is the first bubble, is if it is to be, it's up to me, that 100% responsibility. And if you do want to dive into that conversation that was earlier in the week, it's there for you to go back and listen to again. So that's the first one. The second one is, you've got to know where you're going. You've got to have your blueprint, and from your blueprint, you create your roadmap. Now, the way that I do that blueprint, obviously, is vision boards. So there is a whole process that goes into creating that picture. Do I think you can do it on your own? No, I don't. And I'm very upfront about that. We run stories in our heads that is, it's restricted. We all have blinders. And that is why you need a coach in your life, a mentor in your life, somebody in your life that can help you to open those blinders out a bit. So for the athlete, if you think about coaching in terms of an athlete, we have a concept of what is possible for us. What is possible? I'm sure everybody has heard about the story about the 4-minute mile, and I'm not going to get all the details right. You can look it up if you want to. But nobody, up until a certain point, nobody had ever been able to run a mile in under 4 minutes. And there was this firmly held belief that it was not possible. And then there was somebody who decided to break that belief somewhere along the way, had the coaching, had the support that he needed. And it was this monumental, amazing thing that the 4-minute mile was broken. Now, you can think about this in terms of, talking about JFK, talking about putting man on the moon. Do you know, when he declared that that was going to happen, NASA had no idea how they were going to do it. He said it, he had the vision, and then he left it for other people to work out how to make it happen. But everyone was like, there's no way, man can't walk on the moon. But then they found a way. So you need people in your life that help you to pull back the blinders, open up, help you to stick your head up out of the box that we all live in to some degree about what we believe is possible for us. So the first of those 6 bubbles is personal responsibility. To get to your utopia, to get to your North Star, to your heaven on earth, whatever that is, you get to take 100% responsibility for making that happen. The second bubble is that clear blueprint, you've got to know where you're going. What does that look like? Yes, for some people, that where you're going, that is the castle on the hill and the Ferrari and the Armani clothing. For other people, it's a log cabin in the bush with gumboots and blue jeans. There's no right or wrong, but you've got to be clear. You've got to have that clear vision of what your utopia is. Health, wealth, time, and love. And then from that blueprint, we can create the roadmap to get you there. So they're the first two bubbles. And if you've got questions, I'll keep peeking to have a look, because I want you to get, yes, it is simple. Okay. If you look at this, it is simple. Easy? No. Big difference between simple and easy. But my intention is to take the confusion out, because a confused mind does nothing. So let's declutter. Yeah. So then you have the third bubble is the willingness to answer the call to courage. Now, Brene Brown was the queen at introducing this concept. And the thing that she said that really stuck in my mind is that before she gets out of bed every morning, she says to herself, today I choose courage over comfort. Now, we have been programmed from every possible angle to seek comfort over courage. The idea that we need to be uncomfortable, that being uncomfortable is fantastic, it is a sign of growth, it is something that we get to embrace, has been so hammered down that it has done us an enormous disservice. So if you are brave enough to make the decision that you will choose courage over comfort, the sky is the limit. There is nothing that is impossible for you. Now, courage comes, where is comfort? Comfort is not getting out the door and going for a walk in the morning. It's not changing your exercise routine. It's not changing your diet. It's not picking up the phone and having an uncomfortable conversation with somebody. It's not putting yourself out there to find a new partner in your life, or to admit that you don't know how to do something. Admitting you don't know how to do something, the older we get, the harder it is to do that. And so this is an opportunity to say, do you know what? I'm going to have the courage to say, I've got no idea what state my finances are in. The idea of looking at numbers paralyzes me and makes me feel uncomfortable. I know I've got this niggling symptom in my body. It might be a lump in your breast, or there may be something that's going on in your body that you don't want to look at, because it takes courage to go and make the appointment, to get your head out of the sand and go, right, I'm going to get on top of this. This is my life. I am 100% responsible for it. I know what I'm doing. I know the life that I want to be living, and I'm going to have the courage to do the things I need to do. And that's going to take being uncomfortable sometimes, and that's okay. So we've got our utopia, our North Star, our heaven on earth, and we've got our 6 bubbles. The first 3 bubbles are personal responsibility. You've got your blueprint and your roadmap, so you know where you're going. You know exactly what that is, what that looks like. You've willing to answer the call to courage. The fourth one is choosing from love, not fear. Good morning, Melinda. Remember, if you've got questions, my intention for you is to have clarity. Don't sit back if you've missed something, or you feel like I'm not sure where Edwina is going with this, or just clarify something, okay? That's responsibility. You get to ask the question. So choosing from love, not fear. Now this is an interesting one, considering, well, I mean, we can apply it to every area of our life, but You know, there is a lot of things that have been going on across the globe, right? You know, whether we look at um, Black Lives Matters. This was a really interesting one. This was an interesting one because I had a lot of clients in the US, and that was, you know, the conversation is much more prevalent there than it was here in Australia. Choosing from love, not fear. Fear, the fear conversation was, I don't get this. I don't relate. I don't understand. You know, people were talking about all lives matter. Yes, all lives matter. That makes sense. And so choosing from love, it was a desire to understand, a willingness to say, I didn't understand, I couldn't relate, it hadn't been part of my world, reaching out to people in the US particularly who were women of color and asking them how I can support people in my community better around this. That is, you know, that is from love, not fear. There are lots of areas that I can bring this into, and I think that if you know, we can go back to that willingness to answer the call to courage. Choosing from love, not fear, is I have a love for myself first, you know, that personal responsibility, and that desire to have a better relationship with a child, a partner, a colleague, a boss. And so I am going to choose from love, not fear. I am going to be willing to be vulnerable and to have that hard conversation. I am going to admit that I don't know how to do something, or that something, you know, there is a wall between me and where I want to be, and to ask for help. That is coming from a place of love for self, not fear. There are lots of different examples that I can bring into this. And if anyone's got any questions that are coming up, please, please, please let me know. So that's our 4 bubbles so far. We've got 2 to go. So personal responsibility, you've got your blueprint and roadmap, the willingness to answer your call to courage, choosing from love, not fear. Now, the 5th one is being in integrity with your values. To be in integrity with your values, you get to be super clear on what your values are, because there are going to be all sorts of experiences, circumstances that come up in our lives where there is going to be a pull to be outside of your values. And if you don't know what your values are, it's very easy to get pulled off course. And that is without doubt going to leave you in a place of feeling unsettled, unhappy, and not living the life that you want to be living. So what are your values? I'm not going to, and once again, Brené Brown is absolutely being the queen at bringing this conversation to the forefront. She has in her book, Dare to Lead, a list of values. And within this half an hour space, when you know your values, it helps you understand what makes you tick. Yes, it helps you understand what makes you tick, but it also supports you to make decisions that are in integrity with the woman that you want to be and the life that you want to live. It's very important to understand this because, as I said, there's all sorts of things that will try to pull you off course. But if you understand your values, then it helps you to make a decision. Now, let me, and if anyone feels like they're very clear on what their values are, please share them because it helps other people to see and to hear, because it gives us, it's that food for thought. My values, my 2 values, the first is nature. So I make just about all my decisions from a nature first standpoint. It is my guiding value. So what does this look like? It looks like the food that I eat. The food that I eat, if you looked in my cupboard or in my pantry, you would find um, foods that really don't have a list of ingredients. What does that mean? It means that it's just a single source item. So I eat 99% of what I eat is biodynamic or organic because that is one of my values. This is, when you think and talk about your values, you can think and talk about them unapologetically. And it is not about making anybody else wrong for their values. It is about being in integrity with your values. So nature first for me means that I eat food that Mother Nature provides. That is my value. I wear clothes that are, pure wools, cottons, organic cottons preferably. I source clothes that a majority of the clothes that I wear are secondhand if I can possibly do that, because I am concerned about the consumption on the planet and the effect that all the fast fashion is having on our planet. It supports me to make, this is being in integrity with my values. It helps me to make decisions. So, going back to the conversation yesterday with Marion Stewart, values kindness. Yeah, absolutely. So going back to that conversation with Marion Stewart yesterday, that conversation worked with me because was within my values. So choosing natural over prescription. I am not saying not to choose medical help where it is needed, as in prescription. I talked about nearly losing my son. If we didn't have access to the antibiotics that saved his life from meningitis, he'd be dead. In that instance, there is no question. But if I can choose something from Mother Nature first, I will. So that helps me. That is my guiding value. It helps me to make decisions about how I live on this planet. And then my other guiding value is responsibility. If it is to me, it's up to me. How I treat people, how I make other people feel, my relationships with my children, my relationships with my partner, my relationships with the women in this community, my, everything. If it is to be, it's up to me how I respond. So that is my core guiding. They're my two core guiding values, and everything comes up under that. Kindness for me comes under personal responsibility, not right or wrong for anybody else. You get to know with clarity what your core guiding values are, because that will help you choose and to clarify your course of action and how you get to your North Star, your utopia, your heaven on earth. Health and well-being, yeah. Time in nature, yeah, that's right, absolutely. So it is how that works in your brain. Love and connection, absolutely. So love and connection for me, what works in my brain comes under responsibility. So it's just working out how the values, the core guiding values that work for you and that are going to guide you towards that heaven on earth. So we've got personal responsibility. You've got a clear picture of what your North Star, your utopia, your heaven on earth is, which gives you your roadmap. It gives you your steps that you're going to take to get there. You've got a willingness to choose courage over comfort. Answer that call for courage. You're going to choose from love, not fear. You're going to be in integrity with your values. Now, my sixth one is the state of grace. Now, this is something that, to me, that state of grace is a connection to my inner wisdom. It is that voice that is wiser than the one in your head. I'm just keeping an eye on the time. Trying to break this down into a half an hour training was my challenge this morning. But grace is that connection to that inner voice that you know is wiser than the one in your head. Now, it is part of you, but it is also what some people call God, what some people call the universe. It is connection to spirit, to that something that is a higher force than us. It exists. So you can call it Mother Nature, you can call it universe, God, spirit, doesn't matter. What is that for you? Now, creating the life you love comes from a state of grace that descends when you tune out the world's clamor, firstly. Secondly, you tune in to that inner voice that you know to be wiser than the one in your head. And then the third step is to transcribe without fear. So within this, what do I want to call it? I don't want to call it a whole blueprint. What are we, like within this map that I've just given you, what I'm asking is that you understand these core pieces, these 6 guiding forces that will get you to your life you love, to your utopia, to your North Star, to your heaven on earth. Understanding these 6 things. So grace, living in a state of grace, it's not something that you get to pray for. It's not something that you deserve or don't deserve. It is not for good or bad people. It is there for everybody to access. This is not about you needing to say a certain number of Hail Marys in order to have access to this. This is not about you having to repent for things that have happened in your past. It is available for everybody. And living in a state of grace, when all these other things line up, when you're in integrity with your values, you know that you're making decisions, not necessarily easy decisions, but they are simple because you are living in this state of grace. So when you step outside of that state of grace, there is that unease that is in your system. There is that sense of, I know that I'm not on the path that I need to be on. I know that I'm not tuning into that inner wisdom. My head is saying I'm not good enough. I don't know enough. I'm not worthy. And so it stops you from moving into that beautiful state of grace that allows you to be moving in the direction of your utopia, your ideal outcome. So as I've talked you through that center star, that ultimate way of living that is going to be right for you, and the 6 bubbles that go into it, does that help give you clarity? Let me know. Does it feel like that gives you a bit of a blueprint or a picture of simplifying all the different things that we've talked about over these until now? What are we on, day 10? So I've given you little snippets that come in under this, and in order to get the confusion out of it and to make sure that you can take away from this a clear picture of what I have been trying to teach, what I hope I have been, as opposed to trying to support you to understand. Does that help? Fantastic, Jenny. Thank you. That's lovely feedback. Because I think if you can write this down and stick it up somewhere where you can see it, it gives you a course of action. Each bubble makes so much sense. Expand on the vision board workshop. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, Debbie. And, you know, when we think about the vision board workshop, what I'm doing inside there, every time I um, take people through, whether it's a vision board workshop that happens over the week or an 11-day challenge like this, or in my masterminds, all these pieces of the puzzle come in, because this is just how I talk. And I've got clients in here that have been with me, some for several years, some just over this year, some for, you know, have done multiple vision board workshops with me. And it is about just hearing these things from a different perspective. So when I train inside these different, you know, different areas, whether it's a vision board workshop or a mastermind or a one-on-one call, you know, the pieces just keep coming together. You've got to hear these themes over and over again in order for them to sink in, because what's going to happen is something comes up in your life. There is a decision that needs to be made, or you feel like you know, something's just kind of comes together in your head, and it's like, now I get it. Now I understand. So yes, in the vision board workshop, all these things are going to come in. And as I encourage you to pull back the layers of messaging, the layers of belief that are perhaps not serving you, I will be bringing all these things back in, because your brain will grab them at different times. I hope that makes sense, Debbie. You are so welcome. I'm a Facebook user. I don't want to call you Facebook user, but I can't see what your name is. And I'm so glad that has felt like it's served you. So I am so excited. You know, today, as I said, when we kicked off this, I talked about today is about the theme is breaking through mystery. And so I am so excited to introduce you to Monica Hershaft, who's just joined us. She's in I love calling it the green room. She's in the back. It sounds like we're doing something super fancy because she's in the green room. So Monica is a holistic practitioner and nutritional consultant who specializes in chronic mystery illnesses, certified in Nrt, and we'll get Monica to explain what that is in a minute. Monica's zone of genius is identifying what interferes with the body's normal function and hidden blocks to healing. Monica, hello, darling. It is so thank you for being with us. Thank you for being with us all the way from toasty Scottsdale, Arizona, where it's nice and warm.
Yes, it is very toasty. It's 111 degrees right now.
My brain doesn't even know what that is. Somebody tell me, what's that in Celsius? Somebody will work it out.
We have to calculate it. I'll do a little calculation here and tell you. 111 Fahrenheit. Let's see what it says, because you're gonna freak
out. Toasty.
It is 43.8 Celsius.
43. It is toasty. So it is a roaring 11 degrees here at the moment.
Yes, it's quite toasty.
Yeah. So Monica, we have you just for a short snippet of time, these 30 minutes. So I really want to just take this opportunity to pick your beautiful brain as much as possible. And as people have questions, I hope, you know, as we get towards the end, we'll allow a little bit of time, because there may be some things that come up that people want to ask you. Yeah. So first and foremost, Monica, there's so many of these fabulous different alternative modalities in the health world, and Nrt was not something that I was familiar with. So I would love you to take some time to tell us what that is.
Yeah, so Nrt was how I got my health back. And I, you know, had been sick for 10 years where nothing I tried worked and nobody could find any answers, whether it was medical, holistic, just no answers. And then Nrt found what was wrong with me and got me my health back. And so how Nrt works, it stands for nutrition response testing. Originally, back in the day, it was CRA, which is contact reflex analysis. and it evolved into NRT over time because bodies were getting more difficult to heal. And so they had to evolve the technique to meet how bodies were changing because the environments were getting so much more toxic and bad for you. And then there were cell phones and computers and GMO and pesticides. And so, people's bodies were getting worse and worse. So the way Nrt works is through muscle testing, which is applied kinesiology. Some people know it as, where sometimes you'll see someone puts out their arm and then you push on it for strength. And you can hold supplements, like I happen to have a tester right here. You can hold supplements up, and then the person will push on the arm while you have these here to see if they're good for you. But we also are able to, the way it works when we do a body scan is we apply ischemic pressure, like frontal brain, all the different, parts of the brain, cerebellum, pituitary, frontal sinus, pineal. We go down and do all the organs and push on the arm to determine which organs have interference, because you'll go weak if there's interference. And then through using homeopathic vials, we can determine what's causing that weakness, whether it's bacteria, fungus, parasites, virus, chemical toxins, heavy metals, food, scar interference, or even an organ, which in many cases, I actually find an organ causing the interference. And so then we're able to determine which supplements will correct that imbalance through getting the opposite reaction with the muscle testing. And that's why it's so great, because a lot of times it won't show up in labs, but the person is still struggling with those symptoms.
Gosh, that is so fascinating. I talk about the universe gives us little taps on the shoulder.
Yes.
And I've recently been listening to Bruce Lipton, who's the, epigenetics and just fascinating biology of belief. I don't know if anyone else knows his work, but he talks about muscle testing from that, addressing subconscious beliefs and trainings about ourselves. And now you're talking about muscle testing to use with nutrition. The universe is telling me something. I'm listening.
Yes. I see in the comments somebody had asked about NRT, and we mentioned it stands for nutrition response testing is the name of that technique. And originally it used to be CRA, which was contact reflex analysis. And then it evolved into NRT because they had to make the technique more advanced in order to accommodate people being sicker.
Yeah. But I'm fascinated. So you talk about the 5 layers to illness. So how does a person start to feel symptoms or get sick? So what are these 5 layers? Let's break it down.
Yes. So how a person gets to the point where they start feeling symptoms is it always starts with these same 5 layers, no matter who you are or what illness you get, whether it's diagnosed, undiagnosed. It always starts with immune suppression from toxicity that causes the initial inflammation. That could even be from vaccinations, because nowadays they're giving the kids so many more. I think the last I checked, it was 74 doses now compared to 6 when I was growing up. So there's a lot of different places where this toxicity can come from. It can even be in utero, depending on the mother's toxicity. It can even be from the food, the types of pesticides, especially if you are in the United States. The pesticides here are not even legal in other countries. And so initially it's those toxins. It's whether it's, pesticides, metals, whatever. And that causes inflammation that starts to suppress immune function. So then toxins would be your first layer. The next layer that happens after that is we call digestion, because the digestion starts to get interrupted, and your body stops making the pancreatic enzymes and hydrochloric acid that it needs in order to use your nutrients properly and break your food down so that you're using it to take care of your body and to meet all of its needs. And then eventually, when that goes unaddressed, it turns into allergies. And so what happens then is allergies are really just an inflamed immune response. So all of this inflammation, and now your body's not using the food properly, you can start getting food allergies, you can start getting environmental allergies, and you may not even identify them as allergies, because not all allergies are like sneezing or runny nose and eyes. Sometimes an allergy can be getting really tired after you eat. It can be a lot of different kinds of symptoms. And then the 4th layer is when your immune system is not fighting off the buggies anymore. So if you think about pathogens like bacteria, fungus, parasites, virus, they're opportunists. And so as a mammal, you're being exposed to them all the time, whether you go to a restaurant, get intimate with someone, hug or kiss someone, pet your dog, you're always being exposed to pathogens in life, touching groceries, whatever. And we know ever since COVID, everyone's been all, I'm afraid to touch anything. And that's why, because we get exposed to bugs. But your body is built to fight that stuff off. And at this stage, your body can't fight them off anymore. Your bouncer has left the door. It's on a coffee break. And the pathogens can just come in without any fight and start taking up residence and messing with things. It can cause more digestion problems. Now you're having stomach pains. Now you're having fatigue. Now you can't sleep. And parasites are the worst because they're nocturnal. So they really mess with you at night. And at that point is when people can have really bad symptoms, but it's not enough to show up in labs yet. So then eventually, if it goes unaddressed, it becomes diagnosable, bad labs, disease, where they can actually give you a diagnosis. But that doesn't mean you're not feeling the symptoms way before it gets to that fifth layer where it'll show up in labs.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is where people run into all sorts of frustrations, because we go to the doctor and it's like, these things all feel like they're off. Can you please do some blood work? The blood work all comes back normal, and the doctor says, well, it must be in your head.
Yes, and that's what happened to me, because so I was born and raised vegan, which for me was not a good way to grow up, because my body was developing with the type of nutrition I was eating. And when I was in my 30s, I got really sick for about 10 years. But long story short, how this is relevant is that every doctor I went to told me there was nothing wrong with me and it was in my head. And I was kind of treated like a hysterical female, when in truth I had a severe choline deficiency from not eating any animal protein, not even eggs, my whole life, to the point where that was affecting my phase 2 liver function and my body's ability to dump toxins and my body's ability to digest fats and my nervous system and my brain. But my labs were normal. And so as a result, it got so bad that the skin was coming off my face and bleeding. I couldn't eat solid food. I was very weak and tired. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't sleep for more than a couple of hours. And seemingly out of nowhere, when it was really all from this choline deficiency that no doctor could find.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. Just when I was studying naturopathy, I decided that being vegetarian was going to be the best thing for me. And I had 4 pregnancies, breastfed for I think 6 years, did this, like 20 years of being vegetarian, and my health just got worse and worse and worse, and I couldn't work it out. Everything I ate was whole food, it was all organic, it was, and I was just so fixated on the idea that this was the best way for me to eat. And I had a lot of understanding about nutrition, but it wasn't until I started eating meat again that I needed half as much food or less, and my health just, my weight and everything started to improve.
Right? Same with me. Yeah.
So it's understanding, these things, but we've got to, it's not about making somebody else right or wrong. Some people seem to really thrive on a vegan diet. There's no question, but you've got to work out, what is right for you, and perhaps not being quite so dogmatic or single focused can serve us. Sometimes it's just peeling back those layers of belief about what's right or what's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point though with the right and wrong. I just want to speak on that for a moment. I'm sorry to interrupt, but for me, it was really an ethical dilemma, because I was born and raised vegan because my father started the animal rights movement back in the 70s. He was one of the leaders that started the whole movement. And I mean, PETA started in our living room. And so my dad's a Holocaust survivor, and he basically was assigned to go assess conditions in a factory farm. And what he saw there with, the way the animals were being treated reminded him of growing up in the Holocaust and how he saw the Jews being treated in terms of the way that they were being killed and being gassed and all of this stuff. And so he speaks on it all over the world. He has a huge organization that focuses on factory farming, and his organization brought it out to the public. A lot of people didn't even know factory farming was producing these really unhealthy animals and all of the horrible things that would happen. So for me to make this choice was going against not just the way I was brought up, but as if I was going against my family. And I was like, I don't want to say denying Holocaust, I wasn't doing that, but in my dad's mind, it was a huge betrayal that I started eating animal protein. So I lied to him for a year just because I wanted to see if it would work. And then when he saw the difference and I saw the difference, you know, eventually he came to terms with it. But it's an ethical choice sometimes in these situations. So it's really about doing what's right for you as an individual. And I had to take a risk that I was going to lose my dad by doing this, but I had to choose myself because I couldn't get my health back for me personally as a vegan.
Yeah. And it's, you know, before you came on, I was talking about values and making decisions in our lives from a place of, you know, understanding being integrity with our values. And for me, moving from being a vegetarian for so many years to eating meat, to stay in my values, I had to really look at what that was going to look like, and finding local farmers who I, you know, were trusted, were
Yes.
ethical in their treatment of animals. It's not just going into the supermarket and buying, you know. So it is, you know, there's ways to do it and ways to think about it. If it, you know, that ethical treatment of animals is absolutely something we get to be very aware of. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's right. So I think it's interesting. I feel that one of the conversations, if we keep coming back to this midlife phase, particularly,
Yes.
there is, you know, anxiety, depression, foggy thinking, all these different, you know, perhaps more mental illness as opposed to the really physical, that we can go to the doctors with and get antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications. And so what are you seeing the trends in there, and how do we think about this and address it?
That's a really good question, and it's one of my picadillos when it comes to if you go to the doctor with chronic symptoms. So many times, if they can't find anything in your labs, they tell you that you need to take antidepressants or anxiety meds, because if nothing's wrong with you in your labs, then it has to be mental. And a lot of people end up doing that. And the problem is that, and I'm not suggesting anyone go off their meds. It's not about that. It's about doing your due diligence, because the doctors are not going to do it for you. And we tend to turn that over to medical doctors without thinking twice. But truth be told, it is addictive. People don't talk about the fact that it's meant for short-term use. And then it also, not only does it have a lot of side effects, including depression and anxiety, which is so weird, but it also impacts your pancreatic enzyme production, and it also impacts your sleep and your brain function, and it also masks you from feeling other symptoms that could be warning signs from your body. So the reason people like to prescribe it is because it does help you stop feeling certain symptoms, and then they go, see, it was in your head, but it's actually blocking the neurotransmitters so that you're not feeling the symptoms, which is dangerous. Because can you imagine if you didn't know your car was running out of gas? Like, you know what I mean? It's weird. And but there are many physiological, very real conditions that don't show up in labs that mimic depression or anxiety that we should talk about here, to realize could be an option that you need to look into before you would jump to the conclusion that you need an antidepressant, especially when you're getting into this stage of life. And even beyond, like, just as an example, I was just back east. My mom has dementia. She's in her mid 80s. And I took her to see a doctor because I didn't know what else to do, since I don't live there and I can't help her. And I was astonished. He didn't even do an exam on her. He didn't even do a brain scan. He just started asking her questions to determine her emotional state and immediately prescribed antidepressants. And I was like, she's not taking any, she's not depressed. She has dementia, you know? And it's insane to me that they don't even, you know, that's just the automatic go-to because it's easy. And so let's talk about for a second some of the things it can be, especially when you're in midlife. Obviously, hormones get impacted during midlife, right? So when we're in perimenopause or menopause. And so we in our office use glandulars for that instead of doing bioidentical hormones. A lot of people, you know, and whatever's your preference, that's fine. But you know, I like standard process supplements because of the fact that it's really like food on your body. It doesn't even feel like you're taking a pill because your body reads it as food because it's glandular, and from either a cow or sheep, or depending on which type it is. And but aside from age, and this can happen at any age, because I've seen this even in younger women as well as midlife women, think about if you have metal fillings, right? And if you have metal fillings, they can literally impact your thyroid function, because they're right, your fillings are here, your thyroid's right here, right? So what happens is your thyroid is how you absorb minerals. When you have metals like mercury in your body, your body will think it's minerals and hold on to it, and it'll stick in the tissue. So then what happens is your thyroid function gets impacted, but you know what? Thyroid labs most of the time are not accurate. So you have to run very specific types of labs, and then that throws off your hormones, and then that can cause anxiety, depression, fatigue, and affect your sleep. And that can all be from metal fillings. That is one of the resources for that issue. There's also many medications, like thyroid medications, for example, that actually block your calcium absorption, which impacts your heart, which impacts your fatigue. And also when it impacts your heart, it makes you feel depressed. In Chinese medicine, they talk about the different organs relating to different emotions. Heart is grief. And so if you have anything impacting your muscles, that's going to impact your mood.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing. So you have to look at medications. Also blood pressure meds, statins. Those are all things that impact the heart, impact your calcium levels, impact your mood.
Yeah.
And then other things are EMF, so electromagnetic fields from cell phones, computers. If you are sleeping with them within 3 feet of you, carrying them on your body, basically that impacts your frontal brain. Boom, depression, anxiety. And a lot of people aren't recognizing how many more people have been getting diagnosed with depression and anxiety since cell phones came on the scene and cell towers started springing up. And that's an easy fix, because you can get protection to put on the back of the cell phone that will help from those EMF waves being emitted. So that's just off the top of my head, a few things right there that are super common that cause depression or anxiety, but are actually physiological.
I feel there's I get fascinated because I'm so, I get very excited about all these different modalities and different ways of thinking about things.
Yeah.
But I also understand the anxiety that can be caused by the idea that there's so much, and this can cause that paralysis of like, oh my gosh, where do I even start? And so I really want to, within this space, give people a clear picture of perhaps some of the starting points. And if I can just go back to where I was 12 months ago, I fell in a really deep, shitty, hard, dark hole. And my clear 3 things that got me up out of that, which was an inability to string 2 thoughts together. It was that inability to think clearly, depression, everything just started to go wrong, was meditation. Now, this is when we talk about that anxiety and that depression and so much coming at us, you've got to allow your brain to settle and to tune out all this noise that keeps coming at us. So that was the one thing. And if that's, movement was the other one. So we can tie those in and maybe get out in nature and leave the phone and the earbuds and the noise at home, and just allow our nervous systems to settle. These are basic fundamental things. And that mindset piece, what we're choosing to focus on. So inside this conversation and the conversation that we're having is that there, the focus is there is hope, there is answers. If you've got mystery illnesses and things that are coming up, focus on the idea that, or the knowledge that there is hope. There is a way that we can resolve these things. And often there's a way that we can resolve them naturally without the need for all these prescriptions and different things that are just suppressing symptoms. So I hope that serves. The other thing that I think is incredibly important is looking for practitioners who epitomize what we're aiming for. If you're going to a health practitioner or a doctor that is overweight, exhausted, looks like they're probably, needing a whole lot of help physically themselves, you probably need to kind of shift and think about, looking at somebody like Monica who's glowing with health, but who is somebody who is in integrity with those values, the values you have, that is getting the kind of results for people that you would want a health practitioner to get. So anyway, I've gone off a bit of a rant. I didn't want to take over the conversation, but I just think, Monica, if we can give people, some of those basics, where would you support people to start if they're here, if, if there is those mystery illnesses, those mystery symptoms, it's like, I don't know where to start. Where do I go first? How do I know what practitioner to choose?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's hard for me to answer without knowing. I'm assuming you have an international audience here, because I can tell you that in the United States that you can find a nutrition response testing practitioner, but I know for sure it's not outside of the United States. So I'm not sure how to advise as far as that goes, because I know that I mean, obviously I'm a fan of nutrition response testing, but there's so many different ways to get your health back. And this is not the only way out there. I do have an online program that I'm going to be walking people through that is 12 weeks that starts in September, and just a couple of weeks, where we're going to be going through all this stuff and explaining all the different types of practitioners out there. We're going to be talking about all the different ways to get toxins out of your life and how to eat and all of that kind of stuff. So, and I think Edwina has a link for that. And you can do a free Zoom call with me as well to find out more about that. And then there's also a one-on-one Zoom session with me included in addition to the group, and I'm keeping it very small as well. But and for those of you that want to find a practitioner to work one-on-one with, the way I work with patients, obviously, if you're in the Arizona area, come and hook up with me. But if you're outside of that area, they do have a website. I believe it's nutritionresponsetesting.com. And then from there, you can search a practitioner and put in your zip code to find somebody in the United States. And I think it's also just a matter of, and again, it doesn't have to be a nutrition response testing practitioner, but I do think it's important to make sure. And I think the one thing you could ask when you are looking into people is, do you know how to help people who have normal labs? Because so many times we are struggling with symptoms and it's just not showing up in labs. And you want to stay away from people that are I'm not a fan of anyone who is prescribing antidepressants, because that tells me they're not looking any deeper.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helps a little.
Yeah. And I know people fly in to see you. They don't have to live in Arizona.
Yes.
And it is, how determined are you to take responsibility for your health and to get the help that you need? I mean, this is part of the conversation. And that might sound like a crazy suggestion to somebody living in Australia, but hey, why not?
When I was sick, I would have gone anywhere and done anything. And I did. I mean, I remember there was a guy who did a technique in Vegas, then he was the only one in the country. And I went and moved there and stayed in a hotel for like 3 months just to get treated so I could stay vertical. But it depends on how bad it is. Some people, it just depends on, how much it's impinging on your daily life and your ability to be you. I think the biggest thing for me, the biggest frustration when I was sick was feeling like I was never going to feel like me again, be able to really be who you are and operate as you, what I mean? Instead of this altered, weird version, it's like being trapped in an invisible prison when you feel like that,
And if somebody out there has been really trying to get answers to a mystery symptom or illness or something that is going on, and I feel like you're running into a brick wall, then the path you're on it doesn't mean that there is no answer. It's just shifting the direction that you're focusing on, because there's always, there's examples of people that have been told they're never going to walk again or will be dead in 4 weeks, and it's that the outcome has been something completely different. Just because somebody is telling you something, trust that inner wisdom that it might not be the right message.
Yeah. And there are alternative doctors out there that are even medical doctors. I have a friend who's a cardiologist who is a holistic cardiologist. He won't give medications. He prescribes nutrition. They're out there. You just you have to search for them, but they are out there.
Yeah.
Osteopathic doctors are another example.
Yeah. And the more you can be around like-minded people, the more this information gets passed on. It's not necessarily always easy to find, but if you can get in communities of like-minded people, I'm sure you've got a Facebook community or an Instagram community or something, Monica, where you know, that we've got these beautiful communities where the information's being passed on.
Yes. Yes.
Let me just see if we've got important to find practitioners who are not critical thinkers embody good health and well-being. Yes, not only critical thinkers, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes just changing your GP can make the world of difference. You are seen in a new light. I had a GP who told me everything I had was related to my anxiety. It wasn't. Absolutely.
It happens a lot.
Yeah. So if anyone has questions, we've got Monica for another 4 or 5 minutes. I want to absolutely honor her time and the fact that it's evening for her. She's generously showing up for us. So if you've got questions, pop them in now. Monica, you've mentioned your 12-week program. I'll definitely give people a link to check that out so they can learn more about that. You had another, I think you had a free gift as well for people that just wanted a taster of something.
Yes, and I sent you the link, and I can't remember what it is, but it was for the ebook, the sleep book.
That's right.
Let me see if I have it here. Yes, it's monicahershaft.com/sleep.
Ah, beautiful. Well, let's talk about sleep just for a minute. Why was this something that you thought would serve well?
Well, you actually picked it. And I was like pushing the food list, but yeah, we also have a food list. If you go to monicahershaft.com/food, we have an immune repair food list. But the sleep book is so cool because it's 7 steps to sleep success. Try to say that 5 times fast. And so basically, we cover a lot of the things people don't think about that can be interrupting your sleep, including having EMF, in your room or near you. Not like if you have Alexa or Siri right here, people just don't realize. And there's a lot of other tips in there of things to check if you have chronic sleep problems. It gives you some solutions to look at before, getting to the place where you're having to take sleeping pills. To take a look at, including your food and your environment and all kinds of fun stuff. So. And that's free as well, and that's a sleep ebook.
Yeah, I wanted to get that from you for our audience because I think it's often a missing piece of the puzzle. And people talk about nutrition, we talk about movement, we talk about all these different things, but people forget about sleep. And sleep is a critical piece of this puzzle. And I know, for so many midlife women, it becomes something that, raises its head particularly. It's like, why the heck am I waking up at 3 o'clock every morning, day after day after? I'm exhausted. I need this sleep. Why do I keep waking up? So that's why I wanted to get that from you, because I know that it is going to be a conversation or an understanding that people will really value.
Yeah, and also it's not just annoying when you can't sleep. That's when your body is doing repair and your body's dumping toxins and it's doing a lot of jobs. And so if you're not sleeping, you're missing out on that repair process. Even the mattress you sleep on makes a difference in terms of toxicity. If you're sleeping on a Tempur-Pedic mattress, you better dump it. Memory foam is super toxic and it switches your nervous system while you sleep, which impacts your body's repair process. So there's a lot of little tips and tricks that people don't realize that can make a big difference. And your body needs that time in order to do the repair work.
Memory foam is toxic.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that before. I don't have a memory foam bed, but I had thought that was good. They're not.
Nope.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There's so many layers. But I think, if I can just offer that our bodies are hardwired to support our health and well-being. They are fighting to keep you healthy, well, and alive, and do an amazing job. We just get to give that system support. So it's not an all or nothing. It's just these little bits by little bit make a massive difference.
Yeah, and one of the things that we also were going to touch on, which I'll just say really quickly before we end up, is that sometimes if you try a lot of different practitioners and you can't get results, what we talked about earlier with hidden blocks to healing, that can be, your nervous system can get switched or blocked from overwhelm of any of those pathogens, or from scar interference, or from even an organ. And if that item that's causing the blocking or switching doesn't get addressed, you won't respond to other treatments properly. Even if you're taking probiotics or supplements, or even if it's meds, if you find you're either getting better, worse, or you're just stuck on a hamster wheel, then your nervous system is probably blocked or switched. And that's something that we can identify and fix through the muscle testing. So then your body will respond properly to everything after. So that's what my situation was. And that's why nothing was working for me.
I love all these possibilities. And it's just breaking open that idea that there is a solution. It's fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much, Monica. It's an absolute delight to have this conversation. Thanks for being with us, honey. And I don't think you're in the Facebook group, but if your time permits, there will likely be answers that come up. You can leave things for Monica in here, and when she can, she'll come in and answer.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Monica. Mwah. Bye for now.
Bye.
All right, beautiful women. Another amazing, beautiful, beautiful conversation that is just filled with possibilities and hopes for what's possible. What's possible. So if you've got those niggling mystery things that are coming up, then Monica may just have some answers for you. So to wind up, I just want to answer any questions that might be coming up over the vision board workshop. Today we looked at this finding your utopia, your heaven on earth, and the 6 bubbles that go into creating that. Some of the questions that I've had with the ENLIVEN Vision Board workshop is, firstly, is it recorded? So we've got people from all across the globe that are in this group. And yes, it is recorded. Of course, being there live, I can answer your questions, and there is that lovely sense of community and connection. It is the ultimate to be connected live to do this. However, in saying that, I make it recorded for those that can't be with us live. Now, why is it important to go through this process as opposed to going to YouTube, how to make a vision board? Because there is a process that goes into creating a vision board, that blueprint for your life, for your health, wealth, time, and love, that there is an art and a science to it. This is not cutting out pretty pictures that make you smile and putting it on a poster board. There is way more to it. And we spend 4 days going through different things to make sure I'm supporting you to peel back those blinders, open up your mind to a different set of possibilities, support you to work out what you really do want, who you want to be, what you want to do, what you want to have. And we go through different exercises and I ask different questions. And through being in a community, you will hear things that other women say that is that sense of, oh, I'd never thought of that. But yes, I've always wanted to learn the guitar, learn to knit, do a singing group, change my vocation, all these different possibilities that get opened up through being part of a community. So that is why, that is the difference between doing a vision board workshop where I'm holding the space for you, asking questions that open up the door for possibility and curiosity for you to explore things a little bit more deeply. So that is those 2 things. Then there is the time. So it's half an hour from 10 a.m. to 10:30, Monday to Thursday. And then on the Friday, I'm going to spend 5 hours with you. So I have done this so many times now. I don't know why 5 hours is the magic number, but it seems to be the magic number. So actually we're doing 4.5. So it is from 9:30 to 2 o'clock, We do a meditation. I set you up. We create the vision board as a community. Why is it amazing to do this? We're going to do it via Zoom. So you can all see each other. You can talk to each other. You can support each other. You can lift each other up. It is a part of being part of a community where you are surrounded by people who say, of course you can. How can I help? Here's some ideas, as opposed to, are you mad? Oh, that doesn't sound so good. Or you don't want to be around that. And so that is that idea of, you know, getting out of your own way, having people to support you, to dream bigger, open up possibility. And then if we have this defined amount of time on the Friday to do it, it means it gets done. It doesn't go on your, I'll get to it when I've got time and maybe it won't happen. So as we step into this new season, it is spring, we're in the last quarter of 2022. Let's make sure you have that clear blueprint of the life you want to live, what you're wanting to create. So you have that that vision, you know, that wedding day vision for your life that we then get to bring to life. So they're the main things until midnight tonight. And I'm doing this for a very specific reason. I only have so much time in my calendar for one-on-one calls. So inside this community, if you sign up before midnight tonight, so it is Wednesday the 31st, the last day of August, I am offering to do a one-on-one coaching call with you to support you specifically with your vision. So it's a vision building call, and you have the opportunity to bring a friend. So bringing a friend, you may decide to gift this to somebody. It is a beautiful gift, or you may decide to split the cost. So then it's just half, you know, 50% off for both of you. All right, that's it. Any questions, let me know. I'm always available via email. I'm checking on the Facebook group. Tomorrow is our final day of this challenge, and I'm so excited. Our guest tomorrow is somebody truly beautiful and special, Dr. Kiara Barr. So I will see you again, same time, same bat channel tomorrow. All right, that's it from me. So much love, and bye for now.